So my name is Jibril Osman. I run a platform called Studio One. We've been doing it for about 4 months now. We interview international artists, we interview local artists, and artists in Canada. I do it with my friend Mike, who does the filming and the production side of it. So definitely a pleasure to get you guys on Studio One.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us. Where are you based out of?
I'm based out of Toronto.
Okay, dope.
Yeah, born and raised in like North York.
Okay, dope.
Yeah. We were just briefly talking. How you been holding up with the whole coronavirus and keeping busy and things like that?
Some days are better than others, you know. Like, I think like for me, it's the whole thing is like just not being able to see people and not being able to hang out with friends and trying to hold my sanity through all that, and also like trying to stay creative through it. Just because, like, you know, like whenever I hit a slump creatively, I usually just go out and like experience things, and now I can't do that. So
yeah, for sure.
A little weird, but I don't know. I'm sure I'm just getting through it the same way everyone else is.
Yeah.
Day by day.
For sure. But yeah, so just prior to you getting on, I asked my first question, but I'm glad you're here for the first question too. So my question was, before you guys really got into music and kind of found yourselves, how did you guys individually go into the world of creativity and find that space growing up?
Yeah. For me, I started writing poetry at a young age. I was about grade 6. It's like our teacher would give us like 30 minutes every day after recess to write some poetry. That's kind of where it all started. And that was around the time where I really started to develop a love for hip-hop, you know, so I would memorize my favorite artist's lyrics, and so I would write them down. At the end of the line, I would switch it up and like fill in my own stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it slowly started, and then throughout high school, it just kind of, it's like a snowball effect, really.
Yeah, for me, like I was kind of the same way. Like I was a writer before anything, but like, you know, hip hop and writing goes hand in hand, especially with like lyricism. But outside of that, I was like really into kind of like fashion, I guess. But not necessarily like designers or anything like that, but kind of like making my own things and just making my own things work with whatever I got. So like doing modifications and stuff like that. Yeah, outside of like writing, just a lot of like just doing whatever I could. Like even back to like when I was younger, I just like build things in my house, and just like whatever I could, like with my dad's tools and all that, I would just make something out of nothing.
Yeah. And for you guys, when you guys like came together, was it sort of this thing where, wow, like someone else is creative just like me? Was it kind of like that energy?
I mean, like me and Darian, like our history, like we go way back. So like I think we kind of started finding like our creative outlets at the same time. So we kind of knew what we were doing before we even got into it. We knew what we wanted to do, and we knew where we wanted to be. So like we always knew like we wanted to be rap artists, we wanted to be hip hop artists. So we started a group, and it was called Name Music back in the day. And when we were younger, there used to be 5 of us in the group. And obviously, like, you know, life comes along and people fizzle out and people go in their different directions, start families, work, careers, whatever. But me and Darren stuck to it, and like it turned into Snotty Nose Rez Kids.
Yeah. And just going back on the early stages, were you like, I guess, protective of your art, or was it something you were like able to share? Because there's kind of vulnerability in that when you're really starting out and you're writing or your poetry and you're doing all these things. Was it like very like encompassing of like showing your art to people and getting really good feedback and things like that, or were you kind of like holding it in?
It depends on what part of the art that you're talking about. For me, like I said, I started off with writing, and it was creative writing. It was poetry, but mainly short stories, stuff like that.
Okay.
And I was a little more vulnerable with my my short stories, and like the only person I would ever see that were my parents. So I wouldn't even like. It wasn't until like recent years, the last like 2 or 3 years, that I actually started sharing my short stories with friends outside of my circle. Or even my inner circle. I wasn't really sharing my short stories because they were so vulnerable and so personable. But outside of like the creative writing and all that, like the raps, like those are for the public. Those are for everybody, and those always happen like that. Like those are like the things that when we had like jam sessions, like that's the poetry that I'd share.
Yeah.
But like anything that was like short stories, like about like my inner demons, myself, who I am, like all that, like that was just for me pretty much.
Yeah, for me, I didn't really let anybody outside my inner circle know about me rapping until like late high school. It was actually for like one of the high school talent shows. One of my friends, he's Justin, we called him J.O.B. And high school, I was like super shy, right? So, but he knew that I rapped. He was like, "Yo, D-Mats, like we're going to high school talent show."
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't stop bugging me and asking me, and then I finally caved in. I'm like, "Yeah, fuck it, yeah, let's do it." Rest is history. So I kind of got him to thank for getting my shy ass on stage.
And I find it interesting too when you guys made those two records, the self-titled one and the second one in that 1 year. Can you talk to me about the process was for those two projects? Do you already have the idea of having two in 1 year, or how did that pan out the way it did?
It just happened. Like, you know, we just dove in like head first when it came to this music. You know, a lot of people, like a lot of friends of ours that we know, a lot of them had jobs. And like they were working their job, and then whenever they had the spare time, or they would make the time to go and do the music too, right? But for us, we just dove in head first, you know, like I finished my audio engineering program around the time the album released. He finished his program that he was in, like the mechanic program. So we just dove in like head first. After the first album, we probably chilled up for maybe like a week, couple weeks, like maybe 2 weeks, and then we started the process of The Average Savage right away.
On the note of audio engineering and going to school for that, how did that help in any way in the music making? Because that's interesting to know.
Yeah, it was huge. For one of the projects for the program, I did a mixtape, and then, you know, Q was the only person I knew that was not only my homie, but something that rapped, right? So he was on like at least half the tracks. And then throughout that engineering program, I learned how to work the studio. I learned how to work in Pro Tools. I learned how to set up the studio, shut down the studio, have, looking back at it, at least some knowledge of like mixing and mastering.
Yeah.
It played beautiful. And the thing about the program that I took, it was free studio time. You know, I didn't have to pay for it. I still have to pay for it. I can still book when this whole like quarantine stuff is over, but that was huge for us. But because it was free and like it was always booked up, we only had like late night sessions. So we'd have the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. time slot. Yeah.
And just again, talking about just going and making those records, for you guys, when you released it, were you like the overall reception when you started releasing and getting like really great like acclaim for what you were doing, was that even in your mind at the time, I guess? Or for you guys, it was just, we're just going to release these songs, we're really going to do this? Like, how was it, I guess, before Polaris and things like that? How was the reception early on, is what I'm trying to say, in releasing those albums?
For the first album, it was kind of like, you know, like we were really vulnerable with that first album. We got really personal. We talked about some dark things. We talked about some lighthearted things, and we talked about some fun things. On that first album, we never knew what to expect. You know, we were just like, you know what, like, this is going to be the first thing that we're going to put out into the world as Snotty Nose Rez Kids, and they'll take it as they will. And the reception for that album was actually like way better than we thought it would be. And the amount of people that reached out that said like that album saved their life was just like, it just blew our minds, you know? And it made us realize how important our message was and how important our experiences, sharing our experiences was to get out there. And like that, without making Snotty Nose Rez Kids, the first album, we probably wouldn't have made The Average Savage, and we wouldn't have made Trapline, because what I just said, it just made us realize how important our voices were.
Yeah. And you can add to that as well if you like.
Okay. Yeah, you know, despite being like having that vulnerability with that first album, we still had that mindset like, yo, this is it. Things are gonna change. Like, we're gonna blow up. But you know, slowly but surely we started, basically just took the first step. That was just like the beginning of the journey, right? But with every song and with every album that we've made, we've always had like full confidence in it. It was like, this is it. This is the one that's going to change everything. And getting back, Equal has, you know, like the first album really opened people's eyes. Like, whoa, like I knew you guys rap, but I didn't know you could rap like that. Yeah. And then Average Savage came along, and then after that, the Polaris nomination came, and it was after that Polaris nomination where everybody was just like, oh, okay, this is kind of serious. Whereas before, they were just like, yeah, you know, it's cool, you rap. But it wasn't until we got like that national attention from Polaris, that's when everybody really started to take us seriously.
Yeah. And what I find amazing too is a lot of the times when artists, I guess, make it bigger and bigger, they kind of lose the idea of the fact that we have an audience, we have a platform, we can really make a positive change. And I think the artists that stay for so long recognize that and speak about important things. For you guys, I read that when you had the Polaris and you started to recognize like we have a voice. Talk to me about how important it has been for you guys to have a voice, you know, to speak to your community and to be positive representations for what you guys stand for. Talk to me about when you guys realized that was really a cornerstone for you guys.
For us, it was kind of like we've talked about it in previous interviews, and we talk about it like in our music, like reclaiming our voice. So as Indigenous people, our voice was taken away from us, and we are just getting it back. So that's one thing that we always talk about in our music. And with having the world watching us, but also having Indigenous communities and Indigenous youth across the country and across Turtle Island in general look at us and realize what we're doing on this scale in this industry was so important to us in finding our own identity and finding out where we stand as artists in this world. So I think like having our voice back, like, or having this platform to be able to tell our own stories is like, especially for Indigenous youth, so important in today.
Yeah. Like
for me. I've said this before. When we were kids, we always got like ridiculed, bullied, teased, whatever for being Indigenous, and like I guess you could say society, pop culture, all that taught us to hate ourselves. So we are finally coming out of that, and we call it the seventh generation rising, and that's what we identify with. And we're coming out of that, and we're finally at a stage in our life where we are proud enough to tell our story. So through music, we're able to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's also like we just wanted to be a voice for the youth. You know what I mean? And to be somebody, because like growing up, the people we looked up to was like musically, it was like the Kanye West, the Jay-Z's, the Lil Waynes, but there was never really necessarily anyone that looked like us that we knew about. Although there was Indigenous artists at the time,
yeah,
but social media wasn't social media. Right? And like YouTube was still becoming what it is today. And so, yeah, people like War Party, like Rez Official, those guys were like doing it. They kind of like paved the way, paved the lane. But again, social media wasn't social media, and we didn't know about them, especially being in a small town in the northwest of BC, right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to be that, to kind of carry the torch from there, and then just be like just people that the youth can look up to.
For sure. And a large part of being an artist is performing the records and going on and things like that. Talk to me about what it was like early on, I guess, building the confidence of like performing for crowds and how you guys have progressed on that. Because I know as an early artist, the aspect of performing could be kind of daunting to some, or maybe some are naturally equipped with it. Talk to me about how you guys have progressed as artists in performing.
We started off at open mics just like any other artist, you know, and I remember like the very first time we did an open mic, it was a spot called the Anza Club here in Vancouver, and it was like every Thursday. And so we had a friend tell us about it, and we went there. It's probably like less than half full. It's probably like a quarter of the room full.
Yeah.
We did our thing. And a lot of people were like, oh shit. And then the following week we went there, it was half full. We went there the next week after that, 3/4 full. Then by like the third, fourth week, people were like lining up to get into the.
But and also in Vancouver too,
to hear us perform.
And a lot of those people that showed up to see me and D perform too were like mine and D's homies, you know, like because in Vancouver, like the circle that we roll with out there is like they have a huge Indigenous scene. So Vancouver is kind of the perfect place for us to get our feet wet and get our get our start.
For sure. And now coming to main day, I know you guys released Born Deadly. Can you talk to me about this new project and what you guys were aiming for it, I guess, in terms of just what you wanted to, the messages that you wanted to get across on this one?
I mean, this one was like, it was definitely like weird, not weird, but it was definitely new to us because we usually do like full length project, right? Like a full length concept albums. So this one to do something short. We just wanted to really get something to perform on the Born Deadly tour that was supposed to happen. And we just wanted to showcase like just our personal growth and really get like more personal with the EP and really speak from like basically what we've gone through and what we've been going through.
But also touching on topics that we can't touch on our LPs, like, you know, like we wouldn't put Kobe Face on an LP. Peaks with Eyes would also obviously put on an LP, Cops with Guns, but we were also testing out autotune and all that as well, and just kind of like experimenting with our sound and just like Dee said, like just figuring out which direction we can go, and figuring out where we're gonna go with this next LP that we're planning to release in March. But I guess what you could say with Born Deadly is that that album was meant to let people know that we're here and we're confident, and we were born to do this. We were put here to do this. Like, this is creator's plan kind of thing.
Yeah. And on the note of experimental, there's this, I've kind of been asking a lot of artists this kind of question because I kind of feel this way too. There's this like idea of not really knowing what music and genre all fit together, and people are just making music that just is music and it stands alone. As you guys progress as artists and you guys want to grow and dip into other sounds and things like that, how do you guys I guess approach that concept with experimenting and making new sounds? Because of course there's this idea that, you know, you can lose some fans if they don't like that you're in a new direction. Do you guys see that as artists, or do you guys just see it as growing always?
I mean,
we're like forever growing, you know, and the thing that I can say from like my perspective is like we don't ever want to do the same album twice, you know, and in order to do that, you gotta grow. You gotta try new things, and you know, it's usually the first person through the brick wall that gets the most bloody.
Yeah,
and of course you're gonna have.
So it's just growth, man. And we all have ideas. Like we both have ideas that we want to do. It's just learning how to do it. So that was another thing with this Born Deadly EP, was us taking those steps for the bigger picture.
And of course you're gonna have like you know, like our day one fans that can be like, oh, yo, that's not the Snotty Nose sound. Oh, that's not the Snotty Nose you used to know. But you know what? Like with growth comes change. So like the way that me and Darren go into any situation is with an open mind. So if Darren comes to me with an idea, I'm gonna obviously just have an open mind, no judgment in the room, and just like if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. And that's just the way it is. But even sometimes, like when you're working with a duo, if one person doesn't like something, you just got to like kind of roll with the punches and maybe turn something into it that you never thought could have been there. So like with our new music, we're trying new things and like trying different sounds, different approaches to things, and like we're trying to get away from having what Darren said, making the same album twice. Because Trapline to us like was like a Snotty Nose Rez Kids sound. It kind of feels like something that we started in a way, but we're trying to get away from just having that one sound and being that one-dimensional artist.
Yeah, for sure. And usually near the end of interviews, I ask like an artist, how do you see the rest of the year going? Upcoming projects, upcoming shows, things like that. But with the coronavirus, what I've been doing is asking artists recently, like, what is something that you guys have learned along the journey that you really wish you would have known at the start? Maybe it could have been knowing that you have a platform and you have a voice and it's bigger than music, or any sort of thing that you guys have individually or together realized in this journey so far.
For me, yeah, go ahead, D.
I was gonna say there's so much to say. There's so much I wish I would have done. But a lot of it is like it's all in your head, really. A lot of people don't start or pursue their passion out of fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being accepted, fear of getting made fun of. Like, dude, we got all of that. And it's just learning the power of manifesting something. I'm like, it's easy to say, yeah, I want this, I want that, I want so-and-so, but it comes down to putting in the work. And you need to believe in yourself before anybody else can believe in you. Because if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe it? Like, if you don't believe in the track that you just made, who's going to want to listen to it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't have 100% confidence in it, the rest of the world's not going to want to hear it. And one thing I learned along the way is just to tell your story the way you want it to be told. And the universe will gravitate towards it.
That's kind of like exactly what I was going to say too, but in fewer words. Like I think me and D kind of think the same. We kind of have the same beliefs, and that's why we work well together. But what I was going to say is something that I've learned along the way is the fact that not everyone's going to like you for what the music that you put out. Not everyone's going to like what you're doing. Not everyone's going to like how you carry yourself. But if you stay true to yourself, as long as you like what you're doing and you like yourself, then you'll be all right. And people will gravitate towards that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Just on a final note, I want to thank you guys for coming onto the Studio One platform. I think what you guys are doing is absolutely important and incredible. I think when artists have a platform and use their voice for positivity, it could really make the world of a difference. And I know when you guys were growing up, you said you didn't have people that you could really gravitate towards, and now there are people that people gravitate towards what you guys are doing, and it's so important. So I just want to thank you guys for taking out the time, and again, stay safe and keep doing what you guys do. It's been a great conversation.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having us, and yeah, I hope you stay safe out there as well.
Thank you. All right.
You
Bye,
stay
guys.
safe.
Cheers. Peace.
Studio One.